Welcome to Wealth Wisdom. If you have ambitions to achieve financial success, please leave yes in the comment, and we are here to help you obtain insight and build wealth. The book we are going to share today is The Little Book of Talent by Daniel Coyle. Turn your potential into performance. Many of us wish we were talented in one way or another. But the widely held notion that talent is something that people are born with has likely discouraged quite a number of us. Fortunately, a new idea is emerging. Researchers and scientists are realizing that talent can be developed, no genetic gifts necessary. The key is a combination of the right actions and the correct mindset. This sharing lays out the steps you need to take in order to achieve both of these things and become highly talented in any area you choose. In this sharing, you'll learn what skills you need to focus on first, how to elevate your practice sessions, and the benefits of visualization. Before we continue, if you are interested in this topic, please consider subscribing and give us a thumb up. Let's continue. Find role models to emulate and mentally engrave the desired skill in your mind. Everyone knows talent when they see it. The gravity-defying feats of dancers leave us in awe, and we can't take our eyes off of athletes at the top of their game. Even in our daily lives, something done exceptionally well gives us pause, be it a mind-blowing restaurant meal or a superb work presentation. Many assume that talents like these are natural gifts and that such abilities are simply innate. But as it turns out, this isn't quite true. Talent has more to do with our actions than what we inherit. With the right approach, we can all become as skilled as those we admire. The first step is to see ourselves in their shoes. The key message here is, find role models to emulate and mentally engrave the desired skill in your mind. When we encounter talented people with whom we identify, we start believing that we can be just as good. And this feeling is a strong motivation to develop a talent. Many talent incubators have benefited from this phenomenon. South Korea, for example, didn't have a single player in the 1997 Ladies Professional Golf Association Tour. But when Se-ri Pak won the championship in 1998, she inspired hundreds of women in her country. 4 years later, there were over 40 South Korean women on the tour. And what's more, they won about a third of all the events. Even the smallest connection can light a spark. For instance, discovering that we share a birthday with a mathematician can increase the effort we put into math problems by about 60%. So, if we want to become great at something, we should find role models among the best in that field. We will kickstart our motivation by flooding our brains with images of them, whether pictures and posters on the wall or online videos, and imagining ourselves in the action. While we're focusing on these images, we should also pay close attention to exactly how they do what they do. This is the next step in mastering a skill. By observing a skill being performed over and over, we create vivid mental roadmaps to follow when we practice. With physical skills, this means noting every movement and imagining our own bodies repeating it. In more cerebral pursuits, it's learning and emulating the thinking patterns involved. For instance, chess players watch and replay classic games to analyze and absorb strategy. Following their lead, we too should closely study the craft we'd like to master. Hard skills are the foundation of any talent. Develop them well and never stop practicing. Here's an old adage to consider: a house built on unstable ground will likely fall. It might be beautifully designed or have the most exquisite finishes and views, but ultimately, none of this can make up for the crumbling foundation. So, what does this have to do with talent? Well, just as a house is built from the bedrock up with different parts, talents are built up through many different types of skills. Some need to be accurate every single time. These are the hard skills, or bedrock. Others, the soft skills, can be performed in a variety of ways with equal success. They're the finishes. For example, every violinist must place their fingers on the string precisely, every single time, to play a particular note. This is a hard skill. On the other hand, interpreting the emotion in a piece of music is a soft skill. Each violinist can do this their own unique way. But if the notes are out of tune, then the interpretation, like the fancy finishes on the house, won't matter much for anyone listening. The key message here is, hard skills are the foundation of any talent. develop them well, and never stop practicing. To master a talent, it's important to prioritize the hard skills and perfect them. This means working very carefully at first and rooting out mistakes so your brain forms the right connections from the beginning. Each time you perform the skill, your brain will follow and reinforce these connections. If they're wrong, it will take considerable time and effort to correct later on. Dr. Alvaro Pascual-León, a neurology professor at Harvard University, explains this using the snowy hill metaphor. Practicing a hard skill is like repeatedly going down a snowy hill on a sled. You leave a pathway the first trip down, and the sled tends to follow this path on consecutive trips. Each ride down the hill strengthens the route for the next, and so on. The question then becomes, how do you know if you're creating the right pathways? A good approach is to break the skill up into small, easy-to-master chunks and learn them one at a time. When you master one, build on it by taking on the next. This mimics the way we acquire language. We form words by learning and practicing individual sounds, and then combine them in new ways. Set out to ace one small chunk of your talent every day until you've built the whole skill. But understand that while hard skills are essential to a talent, acquiring them is just the start of the journey. You'll need to practice these for a lifetime, even if they feel basic at times. But they will keep your talent in perfect form. It's not enough just to practice. To master a skill, you have to practice the right way. We hear practice makes perfect so often it's become a cliché. No matter the skill you're trying to nail down, you're told just to work at it again and again, but the repetitive nature of practice can seem pretty dull. You may even consider it a mindless chore. But for anyone trying to develop their talent, this way of thinking is quite detrimental. For practice to be effective, you can't think of it as something to get out of the way. Ultimate success requires us to be fully engaged during each session and focused on learning. The key message here is, it's not enough just to practice. To master a skill, you have to practice the right way. Simply going through the motions of a skill doesn't help us master it. Instead, mastery comes from hitting the sweet spot, the point at which you learn the most, and you grasp it quickly. Never been in the sweet spot before? It feels a little something like this. You're alert and working just a bit beyond your own abilities. You hit the mark at least 50% of the time and become instantly aware of any mistakes. This is the zone to aim for during every practice session. And with ambition and a little creativity, you can get there. Assess your current skill level and then try for just a bit above it. The trick is to imagine what you can almost do if you put in all the effort you can muster. This can lead to some interesting exercises, like practicing with your eyes closed to awaken the other senses, or slowing down dramatically to become more aware of your movements. Some musicians even play pieces backward to gain a new understanding of how the notes relate to one another. Here's another thing to know about the sweet spot: your mistakes matter. Not as signs of failure, but as tools to help you improve. Rather than trying to move quickly past a mistake, stop and figure out what you did wrong and how you can improve. Getting something right also calls for a moment's pause. This time, replay what you did in your mind's eye and note how it felt so that you can commit it to memory. When you stretch yourself, fix every mistake, and reinforce the right moves in your mind, your practice sessions will make a tangible difference. Your toolkit should include patience, positive thinking, and visualization. Developing talent isn't easy. It demands a lot of practical work, from honing and maintaining the hard skills to perfecting your practice strategies for fast and effective learning. These steps are necessary, but they're not the only ones. There are yet more techniques that you'll need to employ to reach the goal of becoming highly talented. Techniques that don't involve elbow grease, but a bit of psychological work instead. The key message here is, your toolkit should include patience, positive thinking, and visualization. To start with, you will need to exercise some patience. At least 8 weeks of it, to be exact. This is because it takes a minimum of 8 weeks to learn a new skill. Not convinced? Just consider some of the world's advanced training courses. The world-renowned Bolshoi Ballet Company in Russia holds 8-week-long clinics. United States Navy SEAL candidates also go through an initial 8 weeks of physical training. There's even scientific proof of the 8-week benchmark. In a 2011 study at the Massachusetts General Hospital, participants who meditated for 27 minutes a day showed permanent brain changes after 8 weeks. So, as you work on your talent, bear in mind that it will take time for the effects to show. Don't be discouraged, and don't give up. While you're putting in the time, make use of positive framing to help you reach your goals. This means focusing on what you want to achieve instead of the mistakes you're trying to avoid. Think of it like this: during practice, a violinist shouldn't think, "Don't mess up that note." They should adopt a more positive approach like, "Get that note right." Along those same lines, you can employ your imagination, picturing that flawless execution on different levels. Each time you practice and fix your mistakes, visualize the wires of your brain forming new and faster connections. Seeing the transformation happen in your mind will help keep you motivated. Another way you can use visualization to help you succeed is by imagining yourself performing a skill perfectly just before you go to sleep. This is like playing a movie in your head, and the author encountered many exceptional performers in their fields who relied on this practice. It works because it encourages the unconscious mind to work towards your vision while you sleep. To keep progressing, re-engage your brain through new approaches and try your hand at teaching. Once you're visualizing great performances, practicing effectively and patiently, and ensuring that your hard skills don't get rusty, you're on the right path to becoming a top talent. Staying the course, however, comes with its own challenges. You may find yourself feeling unmotivated or stuck at times. This can really slow down your progress or even halt it completely. The good news is that there are ways to overcome hurdles and help yourself continue to improve. The key message here is to keep progressing, re-engage your brain through new approaches, and try your hand at teaching. One challenge arises when you get to the point where you can perform a skill without even thinking, as if you're in autopilot mode. This is a problem because your brain is no longer engaged in learning, and so you can't progress any further. To snap yourself out of autopilot, Dr. K. Anders Ericsson, a psychology professor at Florida State University, recommends switching things up a bit. Try new practice methods like speeding up, slowing down, or mixing up the order of things. The author used this particular strategy to level up his ping-pong skills. After months of steadily improving and doing well in games against his son, he started to lose badly. To get out of this rut, he practiced alone against a wall every day for a few minutes. This smaller space forced him to react much faster than he was used to in games with his son. It paid off. He was soon back to winning some of the games, and his overall skill level improved. Another way to boost your own talent or skill is by helping others learn. When you teach a skill and help other people overcome their own problem areas, your understanding of the skill deepens. This is why many organizations or schools that dependably incubate high talent don't separate students by age or skill level. Instead, they allow all students to practice together. Weaker students learn from more skilled ones, and in turn, the stronger students reap the benefits of teaching the less advanced. So, to really master whatever you're learning, look for opportunities to teach. As the author puts it, the saying "those who can't teach" should be rewritten "doers who teach do better." That's the end of today's sharing. If you like our content, please give us a thumb up and share it with your friends. See you next time.